brings us to the City of Santa Barbara Airport Commission meeting. Roll call.
Bruce Miller,
Here.
Kirk Martin,
Here.
Craig Arcuri,
Just remember.
Chris Colbert,
Here.
William Gilbert,
Here.
Patricia Griffin, Karen Kahn.
Here.
Thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And public comment. Any member of the public may address the Airport Commission on any subject within its jurisdiction. On an item that's not scheduled before us. Total time, 15 minutes. We have one public comment slip. Mr. Carl Hopkins. And before I
Hi.
let you talk, I'd just like to say congratulations very much. We're really looking forward to having you on the commission.
Thank you very much. I am looking forward to it also. My name's Carl Hopkins. I'm the Young Eagles coordinator for the local EAA chapter. That's the Experimental Aircraft Association. Young Eagles is a program where members of the EAA fly youths age 8 to 18, giving them a first flight. Not only is it often the first flight in a small airplane, many times it's the first flight in any airplane. They also actually get to fly the airplane. We give them a good briefing beforehand, a pre-flight of the airplane, then take off, and once we're level, we let them fly, typically for 20 to 30 minutes. There are a number of other benefits that come through that program, including the possibility of a free ground school class and their first flight lesson for free. All of this, for more, if anyone's interested in more information, it's at youngeagles.org, or the local is EAA527@cox.net. Now, this was on November 23rd, a Saturday. We've done this a number of times, and I've made mention of this at these meetings, but this one was a little different. It was done out of the Santa Barbara airport as opposed to over in Santa Ynez. It was a small group. There were 12 Young Eagles and 6 pilots, 5 from our local chapter plus 1 from Above All Aviation. We flew out of Above All Aviation, and I'd like to thank them for their efforts in taking care of us on the ground and providing a space. I'd also like to thank the airport for allowing all of this and coordinating. And Todd Smith and the folks over at the tower were extremely helpful. I advised them in advance that there'd be a whole bunch of kids and flights and what our path was, and they worked us into the traffic like they always do, very, very smoothly. So out of the 12 kids and all of these Young Eagles, actually all of these were coordinated by Lynn Houston, who is both an airport employee and also the founder of A Different Point of View, a local charity that helps at-risk children. And all of these kids would be described as at risk. Some from the some were on probation, others hopefully won't get there because of things like this. We all enjoy doing it very much, and having done it once here at the Santa Barbara Airport, I suspect we'll be doing more of them more frequently, smaller groups here at Santa Barbara. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. And let's see, we have notices that the General Aviation Subcommittee did meet on Monday, November 25th in the Airport Administration Building. And we do have an item from that on the agenda. And on Friday, December 13th at 4 p.m., the Airport Commission Secretary duly posted this agenda on the bulletin board at Airport Administration. And the next item, minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. And the consent calendar consisting of 4 lease agreements and the property management report. Do we have any changes to the consent calendar?
No, Mr. Chair.
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor of approving the consent calendar?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. Consent calendar approved. And it brings us to the liaison reports. I don't believe we have our City of Santa Barbara liaison, but we do have our City of Goleta liaison, Mayor Pro Tem Michael T. Bennett. Welcome.
Actually, since last appearing before you, I got a promotion, so I'm now the mayor of the city of Goleta.
Oh, somebody should
That's
fix that.
okay, that's okay. It was recent, so, you know, those things happen. I just wanted to mention one project that isn't gonna have a lot of effect on the airport, but it will have probably a little effect. And we awarded a contract Tuesday night to begin the construction of the new overhead bridge on Los Caneros. And that's gonna be impacting traffic flow on Los Caneros to one degree or another. So we've got to tear the whole thing down because it has reactive aggregate, as all of our bridges have had, as I think we've all learned over time. And it will be widened by 27 feet, and it'll have a free northbound right turn lane onto the freeway. So we're optimistic with these changes that the traffic flow along Los Caneros will improve. It's good now, but it'll improve considerably as a result of this project. So, and it's a bit of a pilot project for Caltrans because it's also going to have a special bicycle button, as I understand it, for those that are less aggressive, that don't like to get out in traffic. Those that hug the curb like me will be able to hug the curb, push a button to stop the traffic, so that free right turn will stop, and then you can bicycle across with a green light. So it's kind of exciting. So anyway, that's going to begin with the award the other night. I've been told probably actual construction won't begin until around beginning or mid-February or thereabouts.
All right, thank you. Okay, administrative reports. We have a recommendation that the commission authorize the airport director to execute a 2-year and 7-month lease agreement with Coastal Aircraft Maintenance effective January 1st, 2014. And do we have any presentation on this, or is that
We
just the
have
item?
Well, it's an item that Ms. Johns is going to brief you on.
Just briefly brief you on. This property, commonly referred to as the Stratman Ramp lease. As you know, Mr. Stratman subleased the property to Accurate, was it Accurate Aviation? Yeah, Accurate Aviation, and they were in for a year or so, and then they elected to stop their lease and relocate on the airport. And at that time, the property reverted back to the airport for staff to enter into a new document. Because there had been interest expressed by several on-airport tenants to lease the facility, with that in mind, then staff prepared a request for proposals. And the original lease agreement with Mr. Stratman required that it be used as a general aviation maintenance facility. And we felt that was still very appropriate, and that's what we went out in the RFP and solicited proposals for that service. We did receive 2 proposals, one of which had a combination of services, but really wasn't focused as much on GA maintenance as much as we'd prefer. The one that we did select, Coastal Aircraft Maintenance, did meet all of the criteria established in the RFP. Their financials were good. They have experience on the field, and in interviews they indicated that they want to maintain their jet operation at Signature, but do want to have this facility for general aviation. So with that in mind, then we negotiated an agreement with them for that property, and the term of the agreement is consistent with that of the 2 FBOs, which means it would expire July 2016. So we are to you tonight with the results of our RFP process and the recommendation, and the General Aviation Subcommittee did meet and reviewed the documents and concurred with staff's recommendation. Any questions that I could answer?
I would just ask, thank you for that brief introduction. The rental amount, did that meet the expectations on the, going into the RFP?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
And it does include a small part of the ramp to allow aircraft to be stored right outside the doors of the hangars so that they can move in and out and
Right.
work on different airplanes at one time. The balance of that ramp for tie-down is being managed by the airport. So,
Very good. Thank you.
thanks.
Any further questions? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor of approving the recommendation that the airport director execute a 2-year, 7-month lease agreement with Coastal Aircraft Maintenance?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it is approved. Thank you. And that brings us to the fiscal year 2014 interim financial statement. Presentation.
I'm trying two things tonight with this interim statement. One, to tell you how it is with the budget, and then also giving you some information how year-to-date compares to the same period of time in the prior year. Hopefully, I don't get confused and confuse you in the process. It is, the interim financial does cover the period through November 30th. Which is 41% of our fiscal year, and we'll talk about the revenues and expenditures. And keep in mind that the consolidated budget now has carry forwards because the city has completed the audit or is in the process of completing the annual audit. So we do have access to encumbrances that we had prior that did not expire last year. Overall, our revenues are below our budget target. However, we're 3% above 2013 at the same time, fiscal year 2013. Total revenue, $6.465 million. This chart, while it's sort of busy, gives you our lines of business: commercial, industrial, non-commercial, terminal, commercial aviation, interest and other, and then total revenue. So our total budget for the year is $15.7 million. We've collected 6.4. We still need to collect 9.2, and that would be 41% of the budget. So overall, we're pretty close to being on target with this part of the year. We have some shortfalls, non-commercial aviation and commercial aviation. We have, our commercial industrial, I have some later slides to provide more information. Normally, as you recall, our commercial industrial properties are leased almost 99%, both in land and in building lease. But as you recall, we've had 2 properties become vacant during this fiscal year. The prior Woolover property at 6010 Hollister, and then also the Elephant Bar. They terminated, or their lease expired in September. So that created a big, those 2 parcels created about a $54,000 deficit year to date. And we are working, as you know, on an agreement with a local broker to assist us, and that will come to Airport Commission next month. Revenues are down 3.1%. As I said, was basically the 2 properties. General aviation is also down 9.8% from budget. After we had prepared our budget last year and submitted it to city administration, we'd gone through our budget review, but at the very last minute there were some late adjustments to the budget, which increased our expenditures, and at the last minute we had to balance. So rather than cutting a variety of things within the budget to equal the dollar amount, I increased non-commercial aviation. So I don't anticipate that we're going to reach that target. But compared to 2013, overall, we're really doing pretty good. We're up in local operations. Total operations are up 3%. Jet fuel sales are up 9%. Avgas is up 2%. GA landing fees are up 22%. There was an adjustment to the landing fee, but not enough to cover this. So it's real activity, which is good. So overall, the revenues are up 3% over the prior year. Terminal concessions, once again, they're below budget, but they're doing good compared to last year. Gift shop is up, restaurant is up, rental cars are doing good. Parking is below, but parking is tied directly to passenger count, and that hasn't been faring as well this year. And we're 2% down from 2013. This one's this is a bright spot. Commercial aviation, the airline space rental is up 7.7% above budget, and it exceeds 2013 as well, both in landing fees and building rental. The boarding bridge fee is down, and that's because once we set the budget, we completed negotiations with the airlines, and we had to adjust the rate for the use of the boarding bridge. That's why it's down. The use is consistent, but the rate was reduced. Other revenues are below, but as you know, interest has not done well for the last, I'd say 5 years probably. So even though we're down 2%, the TSA reimbursement for our patrol responding to the checkpoint, that's also above prior year, but at this point, we're awaiting Congress to implement the new budget. And then there is a contract ready to go, and then we will be able to reimburse ourselves for our expenditures going back to October 1. Our expenditures are down. We're below our budget percentage by about 4%. Salaries and benefits are down. We do have several vacant positions that we are working diligently to fill, and those are in a variety of divisions, not just patrol. Materials and supplies overall is 22% below budget, which is good, and special project is also below. Part of that is because parking is only 3 months reported for this particular report. This gives you the budget line items. The actual budget for this year is 15.6. We have used 5.7. I hope that's right. 9.8 remaining, so we're 37% of the budget. If we use 41% during the year, but we're under at 37%. So revenue slightly under, expenditures below, and we will closely monitor all expenditures so that we stay within our budget. Now, as you recall, the city is doing a new financial management system that goes live July 6th for the, I guess it's January 2nd, I'm sorry. So I'm not exactly sure how the reporting will be.
Flawless.
Didn't you? You've done something similar, I think. So it'll be a new experience to see how the inquiries and reports on the new financial management system come out. So it could be a while before we have another report, but we'll keep you posted. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Questions? I'm sure Commissioner Colbert has
Just an
always had some.
observation, because I think the trend that's concerned me the most is the demand, right? Passenger counts are down 5%, employments, right? And that's a big number. And, you know, we can talk about weather, we can talk about events, but the trend line is flat, if not edging down, but expenses, you're doing a great job in expense management. But I'm
It's
just
true.
wondering if your counterparts are seeing this same sort of, setting aside San Jose, but is Palm Springs and your other peer airports, are they seeing this sort of trend line?
I don't know whether it reports that much. I know that domestic travel nationally, of course it would be national, is very flat. The airlines with the mergers have reduced capacity. The other issue that we understand is the use of the 50-seat RJ.
Right.
The airlines, it's not an efficient airplane, so therefore they're grounding those and ordering new equipment. For example, with American Airlines, we used to have, was it Saabs? It was Saabs, 33 seats, going 7 flights a day to LA. The airlines come in and say, we're going to give you a jet, give you 44 seats, but they cut back the frequency to four flights a day. We are working with our airline consultant on a new strategic plan. And in fact, we had a conference call this week to discuss that. And we will have a presentation to Airport Commission on that strategic plan so that we can gather your thoughts and input, so that we can, if we need to change our direction, we can certainly do that.
And flights, you give us the capacity reports, but they are typically running at near capacity.
Exceeding
And
averages,
so
close to,
actually
there's no seats.
more demand than there are seats.
Mhm. And we have, as you know, in the last year, we continually go and make presentations to the airlines, both at their regional offices as well at different meetings. But it is a different market now, I think, than it has been in the past.
So we really, I think the bottom line is that we really need the seats to be able to attract people who are now being turned away because there's just not enough capacity. So,
I guess as it is a budget-related item, the timeline for the formerly known as Elephant Bar property, I know next month, you mentioned we will be examining an agreement for a broker. Do you have any indication of a realistic timeline to get a new tenant in there?
There's been quite a few calls for both properties that we've taken here at the airport. And as soon as we have the agreement executed, then it will be the marketing and the multi-list and the advertising will go forward. The agreement has a 12-month term on it, so we're hopeful that within that amount of time, we can have both properties leased. Both properties will require improvements, and that will be a part of the negotiations. So I can't tell you how quickly it could be leased. Any?
no, the Radius Group is ready, chomping at the bit to get going. And as you know, we had issues trying to mesh the way that the city does business and the way that the
Right.
commercial real estate brokers do in terms of commission. So we finally, I think, have resolved that, so.
The attorneys.
My question is, if a tenant were to be found before the agreement was signed with a broker, would staff be the one, or would it not be in our best interest to have them negotiate a lease? I'm just saying if somebody shows up, or somebody who's already inquired was serious enough, since we negotiate so many other leases, is that something that wasn't in the cards?
No, I think sticking with the broker is the best idea at this point. Number one, doing a restaurant lease is a little bit different than the normal leases that we do. And with my departure, and I just think that Hazel and staff are going to need all the support they can get till the positions are filled again. So I think in this case, it's the best idea to stick with the broker. I think they'll have the best way to advertise the space, through probably national networks as well as regional ones. So Woolover is probably not as big a deal, but the restaurant, I think, is. It's a big property, it's a big building, and I think it would be better to have a broker on our side, or our team.
Well, for what it's worth, I think I concur wholeheartedly on this. I think we have a duty to expose it to the market. And that restaurant is going to be a complicated thing to market to begin with. I think you've got to get as many people out there looking at that, and I'm sure the city negotiated a very fair commission rate, and you'll get the most bang for the buck for that, and so I support that.
Other questions?
Well, we know, as always, you are very careful and diligent with your budget management. So we have a lot of faith in you.
Thank you.
All right. That was not an action item. That was nothing to do there. And then we have the airport public art program policy and guidelines, and we have a presentation.
Okay, well, it's going to be a brief one, but as you know, with the terminal project, we started the airport airline terminal public art program. And we used an informal committee to help us interview, we put out an RFP, we interviewed artists, we selected artists, and then working with the agreements with each artist. And that system worked really well in terms of having professional people help us in the selection of art. And so it seems like a prudent thing to do is to kind of formalize the committee. And this would not take the place of the City Arts Advisory Committee or their role in the final approval of art. But what it would do is give us a group that could focus on the airport's art program and then make recommendations to the City Arts Advisory Committee. So I went through different airports' art programs and took a lot of what I'm proposing our policies and procedures to be from the Seattle SeaTac Airport's art program. And basically, the City Council, of course, will also always have the ultimate authority to approve anything regarding the airport's art program. Airport Commission will be involved as they are in the policies right now. And what I've added is an Airport Commission representative to the Airport Art Oversight Committee, which Commissioner Griffin, you all selected in the last few months. But the procedures would stay the same. The only difference is that we'd have a group of people that know something about art and to help advise the airport and then advise the City Arts Advisory Committee about the airport's program. Their membership would be made up of representatives from the City Arts Advisory Committee, from Visual Arts and Public Places Committee, the County Visual Arts Committee, the County Arts Commission Director, and their Visual Arts Coordinator, who also oversees the city's program, and Airport Commission, and the Airport Director. And at some point, we'll have a arts program manager of some type to help us on staff or with staff, whether it be by contract or however the airport director chooses to do it. We'd say that the term of each person should be about 3 years, so we mix it up a little bit and not get anybody too settled in where you don't have enough fresh ideas and fresh looks. And then the outline I gave you listed the responsibilities of the committee, and then guidelines for our permanent collection and how artists are selected for commissioned art by request for proposal being the preferred. And then there's also guidelines in case a particular opportunity comes up for an exhibit at the airport that we want to take advantage of. So it gives a little bit of flexibility as well. Also talks about the airport's role and responsibility for maintenance of the art collection, If we want to get, move an art piece or remove it from the airport entirely, there's a process for doing that, and that's outlined in the procedures. And then there are also procedures for the rotating exhibit, which is the part of the program that we haven't implemented yet. We hope to do soon. So hopefully with having some guidelines, it'll take, it'll give some structure to, you know, how our little informal committee fits into the whole process, gives Airport Commission even an additional role with this informal committee, as well as in the process, the city's process for approving art, public art. So the next step would be to take the proposed guidelines to the City Arts Advisory Committee and have them make a recommendation also to City Council, and then have City Council approve it. So, and then any changes beyond, from then on, would be made, you know, starting at Airport Commission to change it, and then City Arts Advisory, kind of the same process. So that's, I just wanted to let you know that that's in the works, and, you know, we don't have a huge art collection, so it should be a fairly simple little process while it stays small. But at least it gives it some structure, so.
Well, thank you for putting all the work into starting to organize all of that.
Oh.
It's a
You're welcome.
very worthwhile thing to have in place. Questions?
I just would like to comment, Karen's been a great leader in this process and making sure that we do have a program in place and that we have representation from across the board,
Mhm.
people who have interest. And I'm excited to participate, but certainly to see it come to fruition.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any other questions on the public art? Okay, that brings us to the director's report.
Your favorite part of the agenda. It's the last time I'll also get to say that. Well, our passenger count, I won't beat that to death, as we talked about it just a few minutes ago. We're, for November, down 2.5% from November of 2012. And then for year-to-date, calendar year-to-date, we're down 3.3%. The 5% is the fiscal year, just to really confuse everybody. Let's see here. We have just recently renewed the contract with Intervistas, who does our air service consulting, as Hazel just said. And they'll be working on our strategic plan for air service for the next year. And as Hazel said, she'll be bringing that to Airport Commission, so kind of get your feedback and just kind of let you know where we are. Right now, going on at the terminal, we're having the Songs of the Season. Different school groups are coming, high school groups, and singing at different times of the day. So the schedule, I think we put out a press release that gave the schedule. So that's a pretty special presentation, and wonderfully talented young people in our community. The other thing I wanted to point out was that City Council did select 2 new airport commissioners, and one is Carl Hopkins, who we're very pleased to have, and I know he'll do a great job. You might as well change seats since you're pretty close anyway all the time. And then James Wilson, who is a retired, he is retired, and he has an aerospace background. So, and he's also I think the CFO of the Santa Barbara County Genealogical Society. So he has kindred interests to me, but I don't know him. So I just wanted to let you know that, and in January you'll get the opportunity to meet James, and you already know Carl. Let's see here, property management, as we mentioned, we finally have figured out an agreement that takes care of the issues that the city had for the real estate broker services, just trying to marry the city's process with the private sector and how to deal with commissions over a period of time. So that'll get us started on marketing our properties that are vacant, the Elephant Bar property in Willover. Our tea hanger, Rebecca wanted to put this in the director's report just because the tea hangers are fully occupied right now, and we actually have 4 people on the waiting list, so
Qualified.
qualified people,
So we'll
as
have-
opposed to the unqualified people. Also, council approved an agreement with a company called Citygate Associates to do an ARF, or Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting Service Evaluation. Part of that is to look at how our services are provided here, which are provided by city firefighters at our ARF station. And also seeing how, if there are ways that costs could be controlled, because the costs over time have gotten pretty high. I'm not sure what they'll come up with, since most of firefighting costs are people costs, salary and benefits, so that's pretty hard to, it's not like materials and supplies where you might be able to trim a little bit here and there. So I'm sure Hazel and Tracy will be reporting on that in the months to come. How long do they expect the study to take?
I think 90 to 120 days.
So anyway, you'll hear more about that to come, and hopefully they'll come up with some good ideas. Excuse me. And I think that's about it for the director's reports. Unless anybody has any questions for something that was on there that I didn't mention.
Runway rehabilitations on schedule, on
We
budget.
seem to be moving right along, so I know we
Under budget, I think.
had some closures. I think he's more worried about the closures
Oh.
than the, than the
those
money
big
part.
You've got 3.
Yeah, right.
For you, man.
So one of them's unlighted. I mean,
Take the long one.
okay.
Okay.
Well, before we totally end the meeting, I wanted to express appreciation on behalf of staff in the city to Bill Gilbert for his service to Airport Commission from 2001 to 2013.
Wow.
Wow.
We have to give you an office here. We'd like to present.
Wow.
And thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks. You can.
I do want to say something, especially since our new mayor is here. A lot of people know, or some people may know him, live in Goleta. 2 seats on the commission are for non-residents. And I'm not sure whether we have another Goletan in there or not at this time. But the reason I got on the airport is it's in my front yard. And I wanted to make sure it looks nice. I don't begrudge ownership. I don't begrudge any of these things, because I think Santa Barbara has done a marvelous job, and of course our dear director has done an outstanding job. And to her I say, like I said before, you've got my respect, my admiration, and my thanks for all that you have done. And congratulations, Hazel, on how they come in. But keep in mind, this is a front yard. We see it. The one project I couldn't get done, I kept hoping, was to clean up the other side of Hollister. And I still hope someday to do that, because that's Goleta's blight, be honest with you. And I hope that you all will keep working on it, and it's been a pleasure working with you all. And if there's anything I can further do, I'd be happy to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
And then we have Mr. Colbert.
That's
beautiful.
fantastic.
I love it. Is he leaving? I didn't realize.
in appreciation of your service and dedication to Airport Commission. 1993 to 2000, then you took a little break, 2009 to 2013. And thank you so much. Really appreciate your service. It's been great working with you. And
This is, Kim Hazel. Not you, Tracy.
we're good on that.
Not that it's a bad thing.
Darn, I missed a couple of squeezes. My apologies,
Wow.
because I love you all.
I don't.
And that's on public record.
I'm not gonna, try to add to Bill's comments, but this has been the most rewarding experience in my, professional life. Working with commission and the city and the staff in particular. And, I started with brown hair, and I had hair at that time. And, my kids were about this small, and, felt like they grew up at the airport here. This has been a real family experience for me here, and it's, I jealously guarded it, you know, and, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
honor and the opportunity.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, I certainly wanted to thank you both for all of your service to the commission, and, there's turnover every year. Just welcome back. I had just a couple other small commission items, and the next one was to congratulate Assistant Airport Director Johns on her appointment as
Thank
acting director. And then lastly, I just had one small presentation of our own. Star performer.
pretty.
I'm afraid I can't lob them up onto the stage here for you.
Oh, how pretty.
Congratulations,
Oh,
and
thank
thank
you.
you so much for everything you've done.
Real, it's so wonderful. Thank you, thank you. Oh,
Just beautiful.
I'm
Well,
almost,
it has been a real honor to
words.
work with you. I know I can say that for everyone. We're really gonna miss you. I hope you'll drop in once in a while.
yeah, staff is going, oh, we don't want to see you out there.
I can't imagine.
No.
Well, we wish you all the very best. Thank you for
Thank you.
everything in your career of dedication to the city and the
Thank
public
you.
good and beautifying our community.
Well, thank you. I was figuring out, or trying to figure out how many commission meetings. I worked at the harbor 3 years before I came to the airport. So it's 31 or 32 years of commission meetings. So I figure it's somewhere over 300 meetings. And I was telling that to Jim Armstrong, the city administrator, and of course he goes to a council meeting every week. So he's in the 3,000 and 4,000 category of meetings. But I must say, Airport Commission has, throughout my whole career, everyone has been wonderful to work with. And I've always known that regardless of who sits in your chairs, I just have been very lucky and fortunate for the experience that you all bring, your perspective that you all bring, and also that if any commissioner ever disagreed with me on something, I always know it's because it's for the betterment of the airport. It's not personal, it's that all of you have what's best for the airport at heart. And I couldn't ask for anything better than that. And I really do truly appreciate it. You all should be very proud of the service you do for the city for nothing. I mean, no monetary remuneration, is that how you say it? But anyway, thank you all very much. It's really been a pleasure, and I'm gonna miss you all, really, a lot.
Likewise.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, with that, I think, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
No, let's not.
Let's not.
Don't let her out of this.
It is kind of strange.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.